As students get back to school, new reports show just how far behind American kids are in reading and math because of pandemic lockdowns. It's all coming at a time when we're seeing staff shortages in nearly every school across the country and parents trying to take back an education system they finally are paying attention to as a result of distance learning. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has made it his mission to take the lead in reshaping what's happening in Florida classrooms and joins us right now here on the National Desk. Welcome, Governor. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
So kids across the country were kept out of school buildings for more than a year. The nation's report card shows the average scores in 2022 declined 5 points in reading, 7 points in math compared to 2020. We know this could potentially set students back for years. So what are you doing in Florida to try and help close that gap?
Well, the first thing we did is not lock them out of school for a year. I made the decision very early on. We were the first big state to say every single kid has a right to be in the classroom, and all 67 school districts will be open 5 days a week. And when we did that, we received almost unanimous opposition from a lot of the expert class, from the media, clearly from my political opponents, and they said that this was not the right thing to do. But the data was very clear that the kids needed to be in school, and so we believe that we averted the worst of that because we actually had the kids in school. And so you saw nationwide a generation of learning gains basically wiped out because kids were locked out of school for a year. We don't know the state-by-state results yet, but I will tell you the most recent NAEP exam that they did have that. Florida was ranked, according to the Urban Institute, when you control for demographics, #1 in fourth grade reading and fourth grade math. So I would anticipate states like Florida, who had the kids in school, probably fared comparatively better than a state like California, which basically let these kids twist in the wind for over a year.
And Governor, you also signed a historic bill last year that empowers parents in Florida with their child's education and blocks classroom instruction on sexual orientation and gender identity. Now, this is for students in kindergarten through third grade. What are you hearing from teachers and parents this year regarding the parental rights in education law, and what kind of an impact has it had already?
Well, the parents overwhelmingly, regardless of party, do not believe it's appropriate in elementary school to be injecting matters of sexuality and gender ideology. They actually will propose in different parts of the country that it's appropriate to tell a first grader, you were born a boy, but maybe you're really a girl. That is totally wrong, and that doesn't have a place in Florida classrooms. And I think it's been a real help to teachers, because most teachers that go into this do not want to be discussing those issues with kindergartners or first graders. They want to teach them how to read, write, add, and subtract. And so this basically protects them from an ideological school board or a bureaucracy telling them to do this. And so I think obviously people are going to be happy with it. A lot of what you saw in the media was not based on what was in the bill. And it's kind of like everything we do in Florida. You know, when we had the schools open, there was hysteria, and then everything they said would happen didn't happen. Same thing with this. I think it's going to be a good school year, and I think parents are going to be appreciative to know that when they send their kid to school in Florida, it's for an education, not for an indoctrination.
And we know there's a teacher shortage all across the country. In Florida, you guys have a unique technique. You're embracing this new strategy that would offer hiring bonuses to retired police officers, firefighters, military veterans, first responders to sign on as teachers. How has the response been to this program, and what was your thought behind it when you created it?
Well, if you look nationwide, Florida per capita teacher vacancies are below the national average. I think there's 35 states that have higher per capita. One of the reasons for that is I made an effort over the last couple years to raise the average minimum salary in the state of Florida. So we went from about an average of $40,000. We're now over $48,000 with this most recent budget. I think that's part of the reason why we have comparatively fewer vacancies. But I do think when you're looking at like our military veterans and our first responders, these are people that have served our communities. They're trustworthy. You know, they've obviously served honorably, so they have the character necessary. And we're not saying you come in if you're not qualified, but what we are saying is let's smooth the pathway so they don't get mired in a lot of bureaucracy and red tape for a couple years. Let's get them in and let's give them an opportunity. And so we've actually had a lot of applications. And so where we were a month and a half ago on vacancies, we're now less than where we were. And I think you're going to continue to see a lot of support for that program.
And Governor, earlier this year, you did sign the Stop Wrongs to Our Kids and Employees Act, the Woke Act, and it basically prohibits any teaching or training that says members of one ethnic group are inherently racist and should feel guilt for past actions committed by others. But a few weeks ago, a judge blocked it, saying that it violated the First Amendment. First, tell us why you felt the law was so necessary and what you say to this judge who blocked this.
Well, first of all, for K through 12, obviously we have the right to set curriculum, and so it's inappropriate to denigrate someone based on their race. Clearly, whether if you're attacking a racial minority, we've all said that was wrong, but if you're attacking somebody that's in majority, that's wrong too. And so we want to make sure people are treated as individuals. So that the judge didn't pass muster on that. What he said on our corporate CRT protections is we really believe that you have a right to work, and you should not be subjected to that kind of discriminatory training, so you should have the right to opt out. He said that corporations have a First Amendment right to basically impose this type of indoctrination on their employees. Now, that runs counter to a lot of law in this country on workplace harassment, on civil rights. And so I don't think ultimately his decision is going to pass muster. That is a judge, by the way, we lose almost every time in front of him, and he usually gets reversed when we go on appeal. So I think most people understand a business can say what they want, but employees do have rights, and they should not be subjected to discriminatory training.
Former President Trump has yet to announce his plans for 2024, but several polls, including the CPAC straw poll, have you as the next in line if the former president opts not to run. Do you have any plans, perhaps, to make a run for the White House?
No plans, because I have an election I have to do right now in the state of Florida. We've had a great 3.5 years. We're going to finish very strong, and obviously we think we need to keep this going in the state of Florida to make sure we keep the state free and make sure we continue to capitalize on all the successes that we've had. And so we've been very laser focused on just doing the job. It's a great job to be the governor of the third largest state, particularly one that was able to lead through probably the biggest crisis that governors have faced over the last half century when COVID hit, and we came out with people itching to move to our state, wanting to work here and vacation here, and that's really been a vindication of our leadership.
Have you spoken to former President Trump about even perhaps being a running mate?
No, I mean, I'm focused on my job in the state of Florida.
And I know it's been almost a year since your wife, Casey, was diagnosed with breast cancer and is now recovering and considered cancer-free. That's great. How's she doing?
She's actually doing very well, and it's a type of thing, you go through the treatment, you go through everything, and it works, but then you also have to say, okay, is this going to ever come back? And so everything she's done and her screenings have been great, and so we're just very thankful. But I think what it shows is two things. One, for women out there, she's really been an inspiration for a lot of folks. This is a difficult thing to deal with, but you can overcome it. And so just have that confidence if it does happen to you or somebody that you know. But also just the fact that, she's been, out there making the most of everything. It shows you that, there's no guarantees in life. You never know, when you're going to get a curveball. So make the most of every day that you had. And that's been her attitude. And she's done remarkable stuff for this state as a result.
Yeah, I know this must have been extremely difficult for you as well. And your kids. You have young kids. What helped you get through it?
Well, our kids, so they're 5, 4, and 2. At the time, they were 4, 3, and 1. So they didn't really know for sure kind of what my wife was going through. I remember, my mother had breast cancer when I was in 3rd grade. And even at 3rd grade, I didn't really understand what was going on back then. And so they just knew she had to go do different things. But I think the thing is, when you wake up every day, you'd see the kids and you want to be there for them. And so when you have breast cancer, it's a bad thing no matter what. But I think it's particularly problematic when you have somebody with these young kids, because those mamas need to be there for her kids. So that was something that kind of hung over her and me, just looking at that, because we, really love our family and we want to all be there together. And then just having to deal with particularly the chemotherapy. I mean, it's just putting poison in your body, and it really, really does knock you down. And so we did what, obviously I was here supporting her through those, helping with the kids, of course. But it's just not an easy thing to go through. And I remember when she got through that and she got over kind of the last chemo hangover, that was something that we really celebrated, because that represented kind of the first turning of the corner for everything that she had to go through.
All right. Well, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, we appreciate you joining us this morning here on the National Desk.